Hey Rebels, welcome back to the channel, your home of no BS trading. So it's time to dive into our weekly analysis. And we just had a signal flash that has led to lower prices every single time. So I want to kind of just dive through that very quickly. We just closed the week red on this candle right here, and that makes 3 red weeks in a row from a significant top. I just want to go back in time and kind of see how the market has reacted, basically when the bears have taken control for 3 weeks from a significant top. So you can see the last time we had 3 weeks red here, and that led to lower prices. Again, back here in 2024, we had 3 red weeks. It took a little time, but we did end up seeing lower prices. And again, in the beginning of the bull market, 3 red weeks here led to lower prices. The only time that it didn't lead to lower prices was actually right here in the banking crisis of 2023, where we did have the 3 red weeks, but there was a significant amount of fear during this time, and typically significant fear events and end up winding they end up marking pivot point lows. So that's just for this cycle. Now, that does not mean that we're going to necessarily have an 8 month correction from here or a several month correction. However, it is indicating that Bitcoin is showing us the weakness right now, and it has always led to lower prices, except for that one time. And I don't believe that we have enough fear in the market right now to warrant a pivot point, basically. And so the other things that we have typically been tracking, let me just draw that up on the charts here because I don't have them on here. I typically always have a trend line from the 2017 peak to the 2021 peak. And let's draw that along like so fashion. You can see that we've respected it for quite some time. We've broken below that right now. So I believe that it's going to take a little bit more time before we either retest that. I'm not calling this the cycle top. I think it's very dangerous to try to call the tops, and typically it takes quite a bit more time to actually have enough evidence of that. Okay, so the other thing here that we're seeing signs of weakness, I always draw my speed line from the previous move so that I can have a gauge of how the current move is stacking up compared to the previous move. And in fact, if we do that with, let's say, this move here, and we stack it up, we were using that as a speed line, and we can see it struggled for a while. And after a while, it broke very cleanly through, indicating that this move was stronger than that previous move. And anyway, so that's something that I like to do just to kind of keep track and see how we're stacking up. And it started off very strong in this move, and we got rejected at this trend line here. And we've been respecting it for quite some time, and now we're definitely breaking down in a bigger way. So what the market is telling us now in real time is that this move right here is actually weaker than this move right here, where Bitcoin is starting to slow down. What's interesting though is while Bitcoin is slowing down and showing its weakness right now, Ethereum is actually in a stronger position, and it hasn't given up as much gains. And then if I go to the ETH Bitcoin chart, we can see that ETH Bitcoin is very, very strong right here. We finally started to show some real strength after years of Ethereum bleeding to Bitcoin. And right now you can see we are at some resistance here. Let me just kind of draw that up. I haven't drawn this up in some time, but we can just go across here and kind of find some areas of support and resistance like so fashion, draw that across. So we can see that we, kind of actually had an early lead that there might be a slowdown, at least for Ethereum versus Bitcoin. But we can see that Ethereum is performing better than Bitcoin at this point. So while we're seeing Bitcoin go sideways and bleed, we're still seeing Ethereum maintain that strength. We'll have to see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks. We can see that this move in particular is quite extended. We have over 7 bars in one swing direction, which is typically means that we're getting overextended to a degree. It does not mean the move is over, but it just means that the market typically needs to correct or consolidate, go sideways, something of that nature. We'll just have to see how Ethereum reacts to this support and resistance right here. But either way, that's a good sign. What I'm really getting at is that uh, while although Bitcoin is showing weakness, we are seeing less weakness in the altcoins. This is Total 2 versus Bitcoin, which I've talked about many times on the channel. Had a nice clean breakout of this downtrend, which we have seen in previous cycles here, like so fashion. Once we break this trend, we typically get a 5-wave pattern to the upside and have a very short-lived but aggressive outperformance in the altcoins. versus Bitcoin. So I think that that's still on track in the very, very early stages of that. I'd like to see more structure over the next couple months to see how this is actually playing out. And then I can go even deeper, farther down the risk curve into the others versus Bitcoin, which is effectively the tokens that are even farther down the list, I guess. The total two would be excluding things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the others is excluding the entire top 10. So that's even farther down the risk curve. We had this descending wedge that we drew up, weeks and weeks ahead of time. We finally had a breakout of that. I guess we're targeting this downtrend right now, and then after that, same kind of thing. Once we break that downtrend, five-wave pattern to the upside, very short-lived, aggressive outperformance of Bitcoin, typical to the end of the cycle. That's effectively what we're tracking right now. Definitely late for Bitcoin. Any newcomers to the market have to go down the risk curve to look for other opportunities. They'll get to Ethereum and be like, well, I missed the opportunity on Ethereum too because Ethereum is, has taken off. They missed the lows on Ethereum, so they're just forced farther and farther down the risk curve. This happens in any market, every market, for all time, because that's what humans do. They speculate, and typically by the time enough interest gets into the market, they're too late. I was guilty of this last cycle. I got in basically at the 2021 peak last year. Before, by the time I had heard about it, it was too late, and that's very, very typical. So by the time the excitement and euphoria is there, that's when the masses hear about it, and that's also what causes that aggressive push to the upside. So that's basically what we're seeing right now. So although we do have that signal in Bitcoin where we're anticipating lower prices. That's nothing necessarily to be afraid of because it's just typical market action, right? And then the other thing that I've had highlighted for some time is I basically just highlighted August through September. And if you go back in Bitcoin's history, typically through this period that we see a low or we're in the middle of a correction or consolidation, you can see as time goes on in bull markets and bear markets, this August September time frame is seasonal also in the stock markets, but I just highlighted it here on Bitcoin. As you can see, they are typically consolidation periods and where lows are formed, you know, like so fashion, which also lines up with, I've shown this on the channel many times. Let's see if I can find it. Predictive cycles here. This is a proprietary software that I pay for because it helps me basically track different cycles because they say that history doesn't rhyme or doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And that is definitely true in financial markets where if you go back in the previous years, different years will have a similar shape, right? So different decade cycles, if you go back 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years from the current date, some of those will line up better than others, but they will have a very similar shape. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. This will take just a little bit. So please bear with me here. I'm going to turn off the cycles that I've found do not necessarily line up as well, and I'll leave the ones, and I can basically make a composite of different cycles to find out roughly what shape this cycle is following. And what I've found so far, and this is also, I can't take credit for this. This is the Pizzino brothers. They're incredible analysts, and they've definitely helped me out on my journey as well. But either way, what we can see here is from 2015 and 2020. So basically the 5-year cycle and the 10-year cycle, you can see how this composite is, very closely mimics the shape of the current market, which is the blue line right here. So the red is the composite and the blue is the actual. And you can see that right here, we've been talking about this for several weeks. We've been expecting some kind of slowdown, some kind of lull, again, with the seasonal time in Bitcoin that we've talked about, accompanied with this composite. We can see that, we're likely to find a low sometime in the September, October area and have a nice, strong finish to the year, which is also typical of years ending in 5. If you go back and you look at those cycles, typically years ending in 5. Also, if you look at those composites, what do those look like? They are typically quite strong. So that all that analysis seems to be lining up quite nicely. And so we haven't really been surprised at the weakness that Bitcoin is showing because we've had lots of subtle warning signs along with all of these composites. So but although there's weakness in Bitcoin right now, that doesn't necessarily scare us away completely because we are seeing very positive things in the Bitcoin dominance as far as what we would like to see towards the end of the cycle to get a further breakdown in Bitcoin dominance. Basically, when we get those altcoin seasons, we have an aggressive drop in the Bitcoin dominance. Basically, Bitcoin is yielding to the other altcoins, and a lot of that capital is flowing from Bitcoin into the other altcoins. It's basically what crypto is known for effectively, and that's what we're waiting for. That's what the masses are waiting for. And we actually have some very strong signals that are playing out right now, and I'll walk you through that. So we have this ascending channel. Bitcoin dominance has basically been dominating the market since 2022, which is a nice ascending channel right here. And we drew this on the channel quite a while ago. We had this ascending wedge, which is a bearish pattern. We broke out of that. So that was one of the first signs that we may be nearing a top. And the other thing that we've done here is we've broken cleanly below this channel. Nice, strong, couple strong weekly closes below this level, which is good. We like to see multiple closes. The other thing that I have here right here is a overbalance in time and price line. So what I've done is I've gone and I've measured the deepest corrections and the longest corrections. So this line represents the deepest and longest that Bitcoin dominance has gone down. And if you project that from the high here, what you can see is we have actually broken that in time and price because we just closed this week below that level. So we have actually overbalanced in time and price. And what that really means is that we have broken down in a significant way. If we had just done a measured move, which it was for a while. Basically, coming back down to this was effectively a measured move. It's something that we've seen before, so that doesn't necessarily indicate to us that something significant has changed. But once we meet that criteria and we have that overbalance in time and price, the bears have basically taken control for longer and deeper than they have in the past, and that is a very, very good, useful tool when you're trying to find macro trend changes. And so if we find a macro trend change in the Bitcoin dominance, there again, this is the beginning of that altcoin season that everybody's been waiting for. The other thing that I do want to measure, everybody thinks that the cycles are so different and this time is different and it's taking so much longer, but it's not. If we take this right here, that's 147 weeks. And if I just project this off of the low, even this low right here, we've basically we've basically met it almost perfectly. In fact, we almost front run this a little bit if this is the breakdown in Bitcoin dominance. So everybody's been waiting for this and waiting for this and waiting for this, but realistically, we haven't really seen anything different. If you just measure from the cycle low to the cycle high in Bitcoin dominance and then project it off of the cycle low in Bitcoin dominance this cycle, I mean, we're basically right there. So nothing out of the ordinary. This is why it's really important if you're investing or trading. Investing and trading are effectively the same thing. If you're investing, you're just trading over a longer term horizon, but it's really important. This is a free software. This is tradingview.com, and you just dive into TradingView and you start measuring, and you just start to see the patterns for yourself and learn different tools and techniques to kind of get an idea of what do markets typically do, and then that is going to help you in your trading journey, basically. So yeah, I think that's basically it for the weekly analysis. I do have USDT dominance here that I talk about quite often. It does appear so we've had this all-time support line right here that we've broken down. We've done that once before last year in Q4 of last year, and that was kind of a mini altcoin season. And then quickly, USDT dominance was on the rise, meaning that all that capital was flowing back into the dollar. People were selling. When this chart goes down, it means that people are putting their dollars into the market. Okay, so what we want to see is we want to see this break down, and we've kind of seen weakness over a long period of time. And what we'd really like to see for an amazing altcoin season is a break below this line right here, because that would be a fourth time breakout. We have one, two, three, and the next one would be four. That is typically if a support and resistance line is met for the fourth time, genuinely the fourth or fifth time is a genuine breakout. And that so a break of this level would be very significant. And I think that would be something else to consider as far as looking for that altcoin season, right? So we're gonna have to see how we react to this. I mean, if we start breaking these trends right here in a more significant way and breaking back into this pattern, we're just gonna have to see how it reacts right now. So we do have this seasonal pattern playing out. It does not surprise me that we've broken trend here on the short term, but we also have this as resistance here. So really, we just have to see what the market is telling us in real time. We can never really predict the future. That's kind of the point. And yeah, so the other thing I want to do as a bonus at the end of this video is talk a little bit about XRP. This is probably going to tick a lot of people off. However, I think that there's a lot of important things that I'm seeing in the charts, and I happen to know a lot of family and friends that are invested in XRP, and I want to just go over a couple things quickly that you can do yourself and measure on the charts to just see what does XRP typically do so that you can know, you can kind of get a gauge for yourself. Now, this is a little bit messy, but just I guess just hear me out. And in fact, I'm going to delete these ones up here just to make this a little bit more clear. So really all I've done is I've put this on a monthly time frame and I've started to measure the moves to the upside, right? What is a typical move to the upside for XRP? What do the buyers and sellers in this market typically do? How many months to the upside can XRP stand before it has major selling happen? And you can see that it's very eerily the same every single time. Every single time we get a major low in XRP, to the high, it is always very similar as far as the time frame. So everybody's concerned about price, but time is the other half of this equation. We have, we just have time and price here, and a lot of people will ignore the timing of the thing. So really, from the low to the high, we have 12 months. From the low to the high, 13 months. From the low to the high, we have 13 months. And the low to the high, well, we just closed our 13th month. Now, does that mean that XRP can't go up from here? I'm not here to say that it can't because nobody can tell the future. But if you're trying to put the odds in your favor and the probabilities in your favor, and you want to do your research and look into what can XRP do, we just dive into the charts and have the price data tell us what XRP can do. I can't go online and have other people tell me what XRP can do. Only XRP and the market itself can tell me what XRP can do. So that's what we've done here is we've just gone and we've measured for ourselves from the low to the high, from the low to the high, from the low to the high. And then you can do the same thing with the downturns as well and get an idea. The other thing that's kind of tricky that markets do is sometimes they will do a multiple. So let's say perhaps that for some reason this time is different. Another time frame that we might look out for would be 26 months. Perhaps this time we can do 26 months to the upside. However, I don't find that very likely, seeing as how late we are in the cycle. And I want to remind everybody that a lot of people are expecting Bitcoin to peak out first, and then their altcoins are going to peak out, and that's not necessarily true. If you go back into the charts again in previous cycles, a lot of other charts topped out before Bitcoin. The peaks of any individual altcoin do not necessarily match up with Bitcoin. The narrative peaks typically happen at the same time, but those can happen before or after by many weeks to months as far as when Bitcoin actually peaks. So 13 months to the upside, if you got into XRP, if you got into XRP during any of this consolidation this last time, even if you caught the middle of this range here, you're up 400%, which is a 5x. That's incredible. I mean, you can't do that in any other market. So if you're waiting to make your millions, perhaps you take profits this cycle and invest again in the lows so that you can kind of keep compounding those effects over time. The other thing that I'm hearing recently is I've heard a lot of price predictions for XRP, and I have not done a lot of research on XRP. So I kind of took this time to dive in a little bit and just do like a very quick and dirty little bit of research on some of the metrics for XRP just to kind of get an idea. And basically the narrative, I guess, right here would be that it's a stable or that it's a stable coin. It's going to be used for payments, okay? And that if it does its job and if it reaches its goal to basically be this huge cross-border payments, and that's where all the cross-border payments are going to be used, we're going to get a price point of, several $1,000s or several $1 million. And I just wanted to kind of bring us all back down to earth and tell us what that would actually mean. If we had a price point of $1,000 for XRP, that would be a 60 quadrillion dollar market cap, which is more than the entire global assets, all the global assets combined. Now, if we had a price point of $1 million for XRP, that would be 60 quintillion market cap, which is probably more than all the market cap of all the universe. No, I don't think we know that. But either way, 60 quadrillion, even with the $1,000 price point, highly unlikely in my opinion, because like I said, this is more market cap than all of the global assets. If we look at this right here, this is probably a little bit old. We're up to $2 trillion on Bitcoin and probably 20 trillion on gold. But either way, just give me, yeah, this was posted a year ago. I just grabbed this off of Reddit very quickly. 300 trillion for real estate. And, we add all these up, maybe we have, I can't remember what the global assets is, but either way, 60 quadrillion is probably 60 times the global assets. It's just something that we want to keep in mind when we're thinking about these things, when we're hearing price predictions. And that's it too, is a lot of these price predictions come from speculation. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. XRP could do this and it could do that and it could do this. But if we go to the blockchain and see, okay, well, what is it doing? We see here, 100,000 successful payments, 318,000 transactions, 800 accounts. I tried looking other places, and if somebody can tell me that this information is inaccurate and this is not the proper XRP scanner, please let me know in the comments below. But just going to Ethereum, we have almost 3,000 million transactions. My argument is that institutions are already using Ethereum and will use Ethereum. If we go to DeFi Llama here again, the total value locked on the XRP ledger is $93 million as compared to $91 billion on Ethereum. The TVL is continually going up. XRP metrics are just pretty abysmal. I think if we go back here and we just look at the fees generated, $500, like that's I don't even know what to do with that. We go down here, fees paid, yeah, 221 million here, 9 million. I mean, there's millions of dollars of revenue being generated on Ethereum. It's already being used. You can see fees paid in USDT, 21 million. By comparison here too, Ripple's stablecoin, 700 million market cap. And then let me just go to the USDT market cap, 160 billion. And you can see that this has basically just gone up in a straight line. This is on a monthly view, and we've basically just gone straight up in a straight line. Like all of this money coming in is hitting USDT in a strong way. And I think that the stablecoin bill is definitely going to help with the regulation of that. I mean, the the Treasury has basically said out loud that well, they're saying the quiet part out loud, where they want to use they want to use USDT to boost the treasury market. I mean, this is I mean, USDT is like the sixth largest buyer of government debt right now. USDT is a cross-border payment, permissionless. It's already being used, as the use case is already there. Maybe I'm missing something, and I'm not, and I will admit that I'm not as informed on XRP or their stablecoin as I could be. But USDT is already here. It's already dominating. It's number one. If you are waiting for the miracle shot of $1,000 XRP at this stage, this cycle, I think that it's probably the odds are not in your favor that that is going to happen. Now, I would happily stand corrected, and this is why it's important for everybody to do their own research and basically look into the charts themselves. I mean, that's really all I'm doing. I mean, I'm not, I am doing a fair amount of speculating here, but I'm doing it based on the previous data. I am speculating that we're going to have a altcoin season because in the past we have, and the data has shown that, and the data is still stacking up uh, to basically confirm, not confirm, it's just more and more confirmation has come along the way, and we are just seeing that as it comes in. The other thing here too I wanted to point out is that the total three market cap looking pretty good right here. Looking honestly, I mean, this is like very, very, very classic cup and handle pattern looking to break out. We have to wait for that confirmation. We do not have that yet, but we can see that it's primed and ready. It is basically all these assets that are farther down the risk curve are ready to pop off. So anyway, like and subscribe. That was the weekly analysis. I did want to do a little bit of XRP, not as a warning. I mean, if you made money on XRP, absolutely wonderful, great investment, good job. Congratulations to you. To consider taking some profits, consider thinking about longer term investing. possibly reallocating next cycle when the valuations are down and getting back in at lower prices and keep compounding. I mean, if you want to use XRP as your investment vehicle, by all means do it. Just dive into the charts and look for yourself and measure things out and see how it reacts in the past and be careful of of a speculative market because from what I've heard, basically it's in a speculative market, the fundamentals don't matter and it's imagination that counts. And we can basically look no further than I guess Dogecoin, right? It's a meme coin, has no utility, no fundamentals, but it has actually outperformed Bitcoin. It's the one thing that has outperformed Bitcoin. And if we break out higher, I don't have the Doge Bitcoin chart here, but I mean, this is what speculative markets do. They basically pump, they go sideways, they pump, they go sideways. This doesn't have any use case, but humans speculate, and this chart alone will tell you all that you need to know about crypto in general right now. That we're in a speculative market, so it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what the news says, and what could be. There's a lot of promises right now, and I have a feeling that we're in the middle of a dot-com bubble for crypto. And when we roll over in a larger way, it will happen. Bear markets always happen. Look throughout history, you will never find one market that has gone up. People will say this time is different. It is not different. I'm sorry. But whatever survives this next bear market, I believe will probably be the biggest opportunity for the next decade. So that's something to keep in mind. That's your hopium. Yes, we have a little bit of lower prices in Bitcoin ahead. However, we are seeing the altcoins actually show resilience and show strength during this time. So that's showing that capital rotation. So I know that I've kind of yammered on and on in this one, but please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if any of this was helpful. Do you hold XRP? I don't. I missed the XRP boat. Maybe I'm the dummy here. You let me know. All right, see you guys.